Searching Strange Blooms, a dual biography of John Tredescant and his son, also called John, gardeners to the Stuart kings and early collectors of plants and curiosities. Distracted by guides in 18th century costume who were visiting the library to check their facts or simply to escape the tourists, I chanced across David Ransom's scholarly article, Wives for Virginia 1621. The story of these women shipped thousands of miles across the Atlantic to procure husbands has stayed with me ever since for reasons that are only partly personal. Then, soon to be divorced myself, I could also be said to be looking for a husband. But how far would I travel to find one? Answer: not far enough to find one. Beyond that, I wondered what combination of faith, hope, courage, curiosity, or just plain desperation might encourage me or anyone else at any time to journey into the unknown. The starting point for my researches was a series of remarkable lists that survive at Magdalen College, Cambridge, among the papers of Nicholas Ferrer, a London merchant closely involved with the Virginia Company, who would later retreat with his extended family to found an informal Anglican community at Little Gidding, in the historic county of Huntingdonshire. Intended as a kind of sales catalogue for prospective husbands, the lists record the women's personal histories: name, age, marital status, birthplace, parentage, father's occupation, domestic skills, guarantors, and testimonials from their elders and betters. Dry as they are, lists such as these quickly come alive as you make connections, chase after hares, interrogate possibilities, scramble into and out of dead ends, like the Kremlinologists, identified by the Virginian historian Carey Carson, decoders of elusive clues from the few surviving scraps of evidence, much of it buried underground. The Virginia Company's council had every right to take pride in the human cargo they had assembled at East Cowes on the Isle of Wight, and later at Gravesend. Some 1 in 6 were the daughters of gentry or claimed gentry relatives, while the rest presented a microcosm of middling England, with fathers, brothers, uncles working in respectable trades. They came recommended by the great and good of the City of London, or by company investors and employees, from the lowliest porter to Sir Edwin Sandys himself, the effective leader of the Virginia Company and chief architect of the scheme to bring brides to the colony. One of the maids jumped ship on the Isle of Wight, but miraculously the rest survived the Atlantic crossing and arrived in good health. A few were married before the ships left Jamestown, so we are told, but a little over 3 months later, an Indian attack wiped out between 1/4 and 1/3 of the English colony. For the word purists among us, descendants of Virginia's indigenous people continue to call themselves Indians, and so I shall use the term throughout this book. But you must be careful how you refer to the events of that cataclysmic day. At the time, it was invariably labelled a massacre, later an uprising, and now simply an attack or the Great Assault as a way of sharing responsibility for what happened, after 15 years of concerted land grabs by English settlers and barbaric acts committed by both sides. Some of the Jamestown brides died in the slaughter, others clung tenaciously to life. Lists of the living and the dead compiled soon after the attack, and 2 later censuses, allow us to track what happened to around 1/3 of the Jamestown brides, who also appear fleetingly in court records and the minutes of Virginia's General Assemblies held from 1619. However brief and apparently inconsequential, such records throw up snippets of everyday life: malicious gossip, misdemeanours, fraudulent land registrations and squabbles over property, the stuff of life that illuminates what became of the women and the kind of men they chose to marry. In retelling the women's stories, I'm trying to experience life as they found it, and to participate in the choices and decisions they have made. Inevitably, this means slipping myself into the narrative as unobtrusively as possible, especially when I go looking for the women on the streets of London, in the back